This is the B&O Sports Show with your hosts, Tanner Ballard and Garrett Otto. Hey everybody, and welcome to the B&O Sports Show. My name is Tanner Ballard, and I'm very glad that you could tune in today. Now, unfortunately, this is the B&O Sports Show, but today it's just going to be the B Show. My partner, Garrett Otto, he is out. He's on the IR. He is sick, not feeling well, so we're going to give him a break. He wasn't able to go today, but that's okay. The show must go on, right? So I'm going to be here solo, and we will see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it, though. It's going to be fun. So last week, we did not have an episode out of our podcast. It was a holiday, obviously the new year, so we were enjoying some football and spending time with our friends and family, and we hope that you were able to enjoy your holiday. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right into this podcast. Now, this is again the football edition of the B&O Sports Show, and man, do we have a lot to talk about. I mean, especially in the NFL, things have gone crazy now that the season has ended. So the playoff picture is, in fact, a set, and it's going to be a good one. You think about the teams that are there, they deserve to be there. So let's just go over those real fast. Okay, we got the AFC. The wild card rounds are obviously coming up this Saturday and Sunday. So a good weekend of NFL football to take place for the college football that was there. So what we have in the AFC this Saturday, the first playoff game, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. This is going to be a really good matchup because Kansas City, it's fair to say they're one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the AFC coming into the playoffs. Obviously, Kansas City, they're on a 10-game win streak, which is just unbelievable. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. So they're red hot coming into the playoffs. And they're going to go up against a tough Houston Texans team. Of course, Texans with that great defense. J.J. Watt is going to put a lot of pressure on the Chiefs' offensive line. I think this will be a good matchup. It'll definitely be a good way to start the playoffs off. When you look at it, I don't think the Chiefs will have an incredibly difficult time beating the Texans with the way that they've been playing, the momentum that they have coming into this game. I think that they will head on to the next round. That, of course, is the first wild card game of the playoffs. And the next game is going to be Saturday evening, and again, it's an AFC game. That is between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Because the Steelers just were able to squeeze in there after Rex Ryan and the Bills beat up the Jets and allowed the Steelers to gain access into the playoffs. So, It's tough to say how they're going to fare against the Bengals. Now, of course, you look at the Bengals. Andy Dalton's still out. It's going to be A.J. McCarron, and who's been playing really well as far as what he needs to do to get the team wins. They're going to head in there with a backup quarterback. Now, unfortunately, even though they did win the AFC North, they didn't get that bye spot, which possibly would have given Andy Dalton, a chance to recover and be back in time for the playoffs, but he's not going to be able to go. So it's going to be A.J. McCarron, and he's going to be going up against a good Pittsburgh Steelers team. Now, I think the biggest question will be how will the Bengals be able to hold off that Pittsburgh offense with Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger leading the way. So that's going to be a good game for sure. And again, that's the night game on Saturday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. The first one between the Chiefs and Texans at 4:20 p.m. Eastern. Both AFC wildcard matchups this Saturday, January 9th. So then we take a look at the NFC wildcard games. Now, those are going to be fun. This is on Sunday here. 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday, we've got the Seahawks and the Vikings. I think this is going to be the best game out of all the games that are in the wild card round right now. This is going to be the best one because the Seahawks are red hot. You take a look at what the Seahawks have done coming into this matchup to get themselves not only back in a playoff position, but they're playing like the Seahawks that we've seen, for the past couple of years. They didn't have the greatest start this season, but they've been playing just fantastic, and they get an X factor back, and that is Marshawn Lynch. He has been going full on in practice, so says Pete Carroll. So he will just be another weapon added to that offense that Russell Wilson is commanding. Now the Vikings, they're coming off a win against the Packers. They obviously won the NFC North division with that win against the Packers that they were able to squeak out. So they're going to have to come up with some ways to stop that Seahawks offense, and their offense is going to have to find ways to produce against a very tight and tough Seattle defense. Obviously, the Vikings, didn't have the easiest of time against the Packers defense, but they're going to have to be, what I'm trying to say is they're going to have to be much better against the Seahawks with the way their defense is playing. And on the flip side, the Vikings defense is going to have to be much better to stop the red-hot Seahawks offense. In my opinion, I don't think, it's tough to see anybody, except one of the top teams like Carolina, stopping Seattle in the NFC. I mean, you see what they did to Arizona last week. They beat Arizona up last week. And Arizona's, they've got that number 2 spot in the playoffs. So Seattle's red hot right now. And luckily for them and Seattle fans, they got hot right at the, exact time that you want to be hot. So I would watch out for that. I did check the weather forecast for that game, and it is going to be just miserably cold in Minnesota. Of course, they're playing at TCF Bank Stadium. That's the University of Minnesota Stadium where the Vikings are currently playing. Their new stadium will be up next season, I believe. But it is going to be bitterly cold. I mean, I'm talking like high of 1 degree Fahrenheit. So that's going to be really, really rough. Maybe more on the Seahawks than the Vikings because, of course, the Vikings are used to playing in that kind of weather. So maybe they can take advantage of that. I don't know. They'll have to be out there quick, though. So that'll be a fun game. I think, again, that'll be the best game of the wild card round, in my opinion. And then the final game of the NFC wildcard, the final game of the playoffs, the final game of the wildcard playoffs, is between the Packers and the Redskins. That'll be at 4:40 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. And the Packers are coming off a loss against the Vikings, of course. They weren't quite able to make the comeback that they needed. That was a game that was, dominated by the defense or, maybe the lack of offense. But the Packers will definitely be looking to come out with a sense of urgency, I think, or at least that's what they need to do. I mean, you talk about the fan base in Green Bay. They have the fans expect a lot from the Packers, especially from the past, couple years where they've been consistently a playoff team, and this year they haven't quite been up to par. I think as most fans are concerned. Yes, they have 10 wins, but they haven't looked like the top caliber Packers team that those fans are used to seeing. So they have to come out there against a Washington team in the Redskins, and they have to play the best game of the season. Obviously, it's the playoffs. You have to play your best game of the season every playoff game. So look for them to come out hot. Now, Kirk Cousins and that Washington team, of course, they won their division with a record of 9-7. So, you may look at that team and think, well, they're 9-7. Are they really a playoff team? The Packers should be able to beat them. Yeah, you might be able to say that, but also consider the fact that the Redskins are 6-2 at home. So it's not going to be an easy game by any standard. But we'll see what Kirk Cousins and that Redskins offense can do to try and disrupt the Packers offense. I think the key for them is going to be keeping Aaron Rodgers off the field and keeping that Packers D on the field. So that's what the NFL wildcard playoffs look like. Of course, you have the Denver Broncos in the first seed and the Patriots in the second seed in the AFC, and they are on the bye week. They are taking a break and waiting for the results of these wildcard games. On the flip side, in the NFC, you have, of course, the Panthers and the Cardinals sitting there. Panthers at first seed and Cardinals at second seed. They are also on the bye waiting for the wildcard games to finish up. An interesting topic of discussion, comes from the Broncos camp, where Brock Osweiler was expected to be the quarterback going into the playoffs. That may be partially due to the fact that people were unsure whether or not Peyton Manning would be completely healthy and ready to go back the way that he was playing, at the start of the season for the Broncos. Obviously, what happened against the Chargers this last week proved maybe that Peyton Manning deserves the spot that he needed. This was the first time coming off the bench for him in his career. And, Brock Osweiler was not having a very good game. He was turning the ball over a lot. And in comes Peyton Manning in the first drive. He takes the team down the field and scores a touchdown. So I think it's fair to say, if you're a Broncos fan, you would be very happy to see a man like Peyton Manning back under the center. So I think it would not be a surprise at all to see Peyton Manning back at the helm at that quarterback's position for the Broncos. Otherwise, in the NFL, that's basically it as far as the playoffs are looking. I think it's going to be a really enjoyable playoff season. Of course, you have to earn your way to the playoffs, and that's certainly all these teams have earned their way, and really looking forward to seeing what the playoffs bring us. Now, of course, that's just the playoffs. There is a lot more going on outside of the NFL. We have that dangerous Monday after the season ends, where those coaches who are on the hot seat, their seat gets even hotter. So, what we have as far as these coaching positions go, it's all over the place. I mean, if you haven't heard about these things, I don't know what to say, to be honest. The New York Giants, that's a big story. Tom Coughlin not fired, but resigning as the New York Giants head coach. Not really sure what that means. Now, of course, he resigned from the head coaching position. He wasn't fired. That could mean, potentially, because he's such a legend and such a good guy, he might have had some inside information from the Giants and, basically told him, hey, Tom, it would probably be best if you resigned, if you weren't thinking about it already. So he is out as the Giants head coach, and it was really emotional for him. The press conference that he had with his team, and Eli Manning was tearing up. You could tell that it was definitely tough for him. But, he's such a legend. And certainly the game will miss him if he doesn't come back to coach, which that, of course, is an option. He could come back to being a coach. He could come back for a coaching position later on. We'll see what happens because there's plenty of other vacancies, trust me. The Cleveland Browns, of course, I don't even know what to say about them. They fired their coach. Mike Pettine, I don't think he was to blame for all of this nonsense. They're the Cleveland Browns. They're all over the place, aren't they? I mean, you think about how they had a terrible season. Johnny Manziel is just all over the news. I mean, I don't know what Johnny Manziel is trying to do, to be honest. It makes sense, but it seems like he's just trying to get himself out of Cleveland. That's really what it seems like. With all the things about how he's showing up at, parties and wigs and, just constantly, gambling recently. He's just ignoring the signs that the Browns don't enjoy him doing these things and continuing to do them. And I believe recently he has said that he wants to go to Dallas. So maybe we won't be seeing Johnny Manziel in a Browns jersey next year. I don't know how much that's going to upset Browns fans. But so the Browns obviously have a coaching position open. Not really completely sure who would step in to take that position. Not really sure who wants to take that position unless you're really just courageous and want to go out and have an adventure. But certainly, unless you can get yourself together a good team there in Cleveland, you're just constantly on the hot seat. We head out to the West Coast where the 49ers, Jim Tomsula, he's gone. Just with one season with the team where they went 5-11 and they just axed him. So that's, I don't know, that seems kind of rough, doesn't it? I mean, the 49ers, yeah, they're used to in the past with Jim Harbaugh, having winning seasons, having those playoff opportunities. But just, I mean, one bad season and you get rid of the guy. I don't know. That seems a little bit harsh to me, you know. So that's another position that's open out there on the Bay in San Francisco. Mike Shanahan supposedly expressing interest into coming back and coaching coaching the 49ers. And another man interested in coaching is in fact Chip Kelly, who was shown the door in Philadelphia. And I kind of feel bad for him. He had such immense success in Oregon, and it seemed like Philadelphia was, initially when he came, you thought, well, he's just going to, do what he did in Oregon, and he's going to bring that kind of offense into the NFL in Philadelphia. Well, that wasn't the case. And for most Philadelphia fans, it was pretty much a happy occasion that Chip Kelly was fired. So there's another vacancy in the coaching position. The Miami Dolphins don't have a coach. Neither do the Tennessee Titans. So, a lot of open coaching positions from teams that I think it's fair to say you expect to have open coaching positions. So it'll be interesting to see over the offseason where the coaches go, if they'll take, if some college coaches will come up into the NFL, if you'll just have restructured NFL coaches moving around, the coordinators. I mean, all sorts of things could happen, and you never know. One team could find the right coach and be very good next year. So we'll find out. That'll be fun. A lot of rumors about Jim Caldwell and the Detroit Lions. They had a better second half to the season than they did the first half, but yet again did not make the playoffs. And I don't know. It seems like his job has been kind of on thin ice for a long time. But I think what's really keeping him is the Ford family that owns the team. I think they like him a lot. So that'll keep him in the job. In other news, Sean Payton is in fact remaining as the New Orleans Saints head coach. There was rumors that he would be leaving and could possibly go coach somewhere else, but those have been dispelled. He is staying in New Orleans. So the Saints will have a familiar face back in the head coaching position. Out in Indianapolis, an interesting story was Chuck Pagano getting a 4-year contract extension to stay with the team. A lot of people thought that he would be out the door. The Colts ended up firing their defensive coordinator, and there was rumors that the general manager could be going out. I mean, just all sorts of rumors from Indianapolis, but they kind of shocked everybody by re-signing Chuck Pagano. So he is, in fact, back and ready to go. So that's basically the list of the coaches who are, either out the door or safe, if you will. Pretty interesting stories there. So here we go again with another interesting story in the NFL, and that is the three teams who have filed their applications for a move to Los Angeles. That's an interesting story because what you have is, like I said, three teams: the Oakland Raiders, San Diego Chargers, and the St. Louis Rams, who have all filed their applications. They filed their applications like as soon as you can for Los Angeles, to move to Los Angeles, which is crazy. All three of these teams wanting to go to Los Angeles. That's a tough one. There's no way that Los Angeles can sustain three NFL teams, so one of them is going to get rejected, I think. I can see two getting rejected as well, but not totally sure. Okay, because what you have, the St. Louis Rams, their owner, Stan Kroenke, he desperately wants to move out of St. Louis and to LA. I mean, he is like bound and determined. He's even said that he's going to build a stadium in Los Angeles, a new football stadium in Los Angeles, even if the team doesn't move there, which is like absurd. So with his determined nature, I don't think there's any way that they don't go to Los Angeles. There's even, I don't know if you've been able to see, but he the paper, the application that he sent to the NFL for their move, he just like trashed the city of St. Louis. Basically just, called them a two-sport city and, said that the NFL would lose money if they kept the Rams there and building a new stadium would be futile. I mean, just disrespected the city. I mean, if you're a St. Louis Rams fan living in that area, I would feel pretty hurt by your owner. So it is very likely that the St. Louis Rams could be out the door and packing their bags and moving to Los Angeles. So then it becomes a question of the Oakland Raiders versus the San Diego Chargers. Now, San Diego, it's an interesting topic. It's interesting for the NFL because I think they like having the San Diego Chargers because, who doesn't love San Diego? Everybody loves San Diego. It's a great market for the NFL if they want to host Super Bowls because you have to have a team in order to, you have to have a team in a city in order to host the Super Bowl there. So I think the NFL likes having the San Diego Chargers, but do the Chargers like having themselves in San Diego? That's the question. They have a good fan base, but not the best fan base, certainly compared to LA. I mean, Los Angeles, you're going to have a huge fan base no matter what, just with the amount of people, and, it's Los Angeles, City of Angels. Then you have the Oakland Raiders, who it's tough to say whether or not that they would be able to move back to LA. I know that, I think Oakland wants to keep them there. The city of Oakland definitely wants to keep them there. And they don't seem like they are bound and determined, especially not much of St. Louis, to move to LA. They sound like they're like, yeah, we'd like to move to LA. Here's our application papers. We're going to let the NFL decide. I mean, that's like literally what they said. So, it'll be up, of course, to the owners to decide which of these teams stays, which of these teams can come to LA. But it'll be fun and cool, I think, to have some Los Angeles football teams back. Los Angeles has, they have every sport, every professional team except the NFL, it seems like. So, I think it'll be very neat to have those, at least one, maybe two, teams back in the NFL. So that just about wraps up our NFL news, our NFL discussions for this week. Of course, again, I'm going solo here without my partner Garrett. He is sick, unfortunately, so we're hoping he gets better. So in between here are college football and NFL talk. Just 2 days ago was 1 year since the sports world lost a very influential figure in Stuart Scott, the great sportscaster for ESPN. Of course, lost a battle to cancer, and he was just absolutely the epitome of courage and fight, and just utter determination. And I know Garrett and I both loved listening to him. We looked up to him, and we definitely can learn from him. And I think that his story was absolutely incredible, and he fought. And it's really, it was just sad to lose him from this world. So, rest in peace, Stuart Scott. We'll always remember your influence on the sports world. So, just some some breaking news here. I know we already wrapped up the NFL thing, but this is interesting. This just came out. Calvin Johnson is contemplating whether or not he is going to stay a football player. He is considering retirement, which is absurd. That's insane. He's 30 years old. Heck, he's got plenty of money, retiring may not be a bad option for him, but it would be really unfortunate for the NFL to lose a guy like Megatron. He's been in the NFL for 9 seasons now, and maybe he's feeling the effects. Like I said, he's 30 years old. Maybe he's feeling the effects of, a rough NFL career, and maybe he feels it's right for him to retire now. So that's an interesting development, and we'll see how far that goes and whether or not the Lions will be with Calvin Johnson next year. So we're moving on into college football here, and this week we don't really have a weekly rant, but I would like to say that there was a story coming out this past week about the college football playoff, which of course was New Year's Eve between Clemson and Oklahoma, and then you had Alabama and Michigan State. Both of the games were, good. Clemson, of course, beat Oklahoma, and Alabama soundly beat Michigan State. They weren't great games, but they were good. They were enjoyable. But the world found out pretty quick afterwards, like the next day, that the ratings for those college football playoff games, they plummeted, just dropped compared to last year. And, this has the playoff committee saying, whoa, what happened? What could have happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened is you switched the days. Why? I don't understand what's going through the head of the playoff committee. Well, I take that back. I do understand what's going through the head of the playoff committee when they put those games on New Year's Eve. They switched them from New Year's Day to New Year's Eve. Maybe it was a scheduling conflict. Otherwise, they were just going for, basically, well, a lot of people are going to be together on New Year's Eve. There's going to be a lot of people partying. Let's just throw some college football in there. If that really was their mindset going into this, that doesn't really work, in my opinion, New Year's Eve is it's a tradition, right? People have family over, they have friends over, they have, they're doing other things, right? I mean, I was watching the playoff on on ESPN, and we have the ESPN commentator saying, well, here's a look into Dick Clark's New Year's Eve party going on in, New York City, and if you want to just flip over to ABC real fast, you can see who's performing on stage. No. I'm a football fan. I want to watch football. I don't want to be flipping back and forth to watch New Year's Eve parties. But see, then again, it's the opposite. People get together to watch these parties. They would get together to have these New Year parties, not to watch football. So it's really a strange concept, in my opinion, for the playoff committee to do this. Again, if their sole goal in this was, to get more views because, or to get more people watching because, it's on New Year's Eve, they were thinking that more people would be willing to watch. I would just keep it on New Year's Day. And, they could switch it back next year, and that'll be, a laughing matter, I think. But it's really, I don't know. Businesses, those kind of decisions sometimes just don't really make a ton of sense. And obviously, that one took a toll on them because those ratings just dropped dramatically. So, with that said, we do have the confirmed matchup for the college football playoff championship, and that is between Clemson and Alabama. Of course, Clemson ranked number 1, still undefeated, and Alabama ranked at number 2. So as far as the ranking goes, these are the appropriate teams that should be in the college football playoff championship. This is going to be a fantastic game. This is coming up on Monday, January 11th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and I am just really looking forward to it. Obviously, these two teams have proven to be the best teams in football. And now, of course, there's the debate. People are debating everywhere which team is going to beat which team, right? An interesting side note, there was a story today about how Clemson is being limited to 20-hour practices because they've gone back to academics. Their academic side of the school is back in session. Meanwhile, Alabama is not back. Their calendar is not academically back, so they can practice all they want. Now, this was an issue last year between Ohio State and Oregon in the national championship, and Ohio State was on the end of we can practice as much as we want because we're not academically back on the calendar yet, and they ended up winning. So and now that one, I don't know. I don't think even with Oregon they could have had all the practice they wanted. I don't think they were going to beat Ohio State. So this will be interesting because Clemson is being limited with their practices, whereas Alabama can have as much as they want. Will that be a factor? I don't really know how much you can point to that being a factor. This is about raw talent on the field. When you talk about the matchup, Clemson and Alabama, you have two teams that are being fueled, I think, by two different things. Clemson is really being fueled by doubt and hate. Of course, you hear the cliched term haters now. Clemson has been a team that has been doubted for most of the year, right? Everybody's been saying, well, Clemson, they can't do it, they're, they can't win, they don't have that good a team, they're not good enough defensively, yada yada. But then they continue to beat teams, right? They continue to be undefeated. Now, we get to this point of the year, and I think it's fair to say that most of that doubt has gone away. But to them, it still exists, right? They're still thinking, and maybe this is, definitely it's good for them. They're thinking, man, people still doubt us. People still hate us. They don't think that we can do this. So, this is igniting their passion and their hatred while they're out there. And, it's really fueling their football team. So that's really the driving force, I think, for Clemson coming into this game. Whereas Alabama, on the other hand, they're fueled by, I think, the past, basically. They have a sense of revenge based on what happened last year with them losing out in the playoff. They want to come back. They want to hit them hard. And, for a team like Alabama, when you're coming up against an undefeated team like Clemson, there's a certain, everybody wants to beat the undefeated team. And when you're a team like Alabama, where, you have just an outstanding recruiting class, a Heisman winner, a fantastic defense, you're thinking this team's undefeated. They haven't played a team with a caliber of physicality that we have, with a caliber of stars that we have, and we can beat them up. That may be the case, and that may be their thinking going into the game, but I think Clemson's got a real shot, and that's the key word. They've got a shot at winning this game. Personally, I'm picking Alabama. I think that when you take everything into consideration, how good the Alabama team has been playing, offensively, Jay Coker had a great game against Michigan State. Will he be able to reproduce that game out there against Clemson and their defense? I don't know. That's going to be tough. He's really going to have to be on his A game. Derrick Henry, they have to get him going in this game for Alabama to win. They have to get him going. And their defense is really going to have to shut down Deshaun Watson. Of course, they have to find a way to contain him, which is nearly impossible to do because he's such a, outstanding dual-threat quarterback. Clemson, on the other hand, I think they can exploit Alabama's weakness, and I think that comes defensively. If they can figure out ways to, get around that physical front line of Alabama, challenge them in the air, challenge them on some, outside runs, those kind of things, maybe that's where they get their shot. Because brute force, pure physicality, just pounding the football, I don't think they're going to beat Alabama that way. Certainly, though, it's going to be a fantastic matchup. Again, these two teams are the best teams in college football. They're going to be having at it, and it is going to be so much fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's crazy that the college football season's over. I feel like it just started. Time flies, man. Time flies. Same thing with the NFL season. Crazy. But you know what that means. Once these seasons are over, that means the B&O Sports Show gets to take on a whole new identity. That means we could talk about the NBA, the NHL, all these, the off seasons, of course, of baseball and football. But we are going to be a much more enveloped show as soon as these football games are over. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Well, that basically will wrap up this episode of the B&O Sports Show. Again, just in case you just happened to, hit the end of this for some reason, my name is Tanner Ballard, and I have been going solo for this episode because my partner, Garrett Otto, is on the injured reserve. Actually, not really. He's sick. Not feeling well. So we excuse him. Again, the show has to go on. So we hope he's better. He should be better. He should be ready to go next week. We much miss his insight and comments. I hope you enjoy this show. It's been fun. Obviously, a lot of good football games coming up in the next couple of weeks. This weekend is going to be great. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for tuning into the B&O Sports Show. Again, if you enjoyed it, make sure to please share with everyone that you know. That would be much appreciated. We hope you have enjoyed, and thank you, and we will see you later.